All right, so we're diving into some pretty wild stuff happening in Dolton, Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
This is all about Mayor Tiffany Henyard
Mm-hmm.
and all this craziness that's been going on with her administration.
Right.
We got some pretty intense articles from the Crusader newspaper
Yeah.
and some footage from Fox News.
Okay.
And let me tell you, things are getting heaty.
Yeah. It is certainly a fascinating situation.
Oh, yeah.
We've got allegations of financial mismanagement. Then there's this whole brawl that went down at a town meeting.
Right.
And then on top of everything, the mayor goes and compares herself to Jesus and Rosa Parks.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot to unpack.
Okay, so let's start with this report you sent us, the one from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Right.
Which really dives into Dolton's finances.
Yeah.
It doesn't paint a pretty picture of what's been happening under Henyard.
So Lightfoot's investigation uncovered this dramatic shift in Dolton's general fund.
Okay.
That's the main account a town uses for its day-to-day operations.
Right.
So back in April 2022, it had a surplus of $5.61 million.
Okay.
But by May 2024, it had plummeted to a deficit of $3.65 million.
Wow.
So to put that in perspective, a deficit that large for a town like Dolton, that could mean some really tough choices.
Yeah?
Potential cuts to essential services, tax hikes,
Oh, wow.
or even the risk of bankruptcy.
Seriously?
It's a situation that's got everyone on edge.
Yeah, I bet. And the report doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't.
It details almost $780,000 in credit card charges, just racked up over 9 months in 2023.
Wow.
We're talking everyday places like Amazon, Target, Walgreens. There's even a specific purchase that really raised some eyebrows.
What was that?
Over $50,000 spent on ice skates and artificial ice.
Ice skates?
Yeah, apparently this went against Dolton's purchasing policies.
Wow, so what do you make of that?
I know, it definitely raises questions about spending practices and oversight, especially that ice skating equipment.
Right.
That seems a bit out of the ordinary for a town's budget.
Yeah, I mean, those kinds of purchases would definitely warrant further investigation.
Absolutely. And then there's this whole issue with these Freedom of Information Act requests, or FOIA requests,
Right.
that were apparently blocked by Henyard's administration.
Uh-huh.
Now, for those who aren't familiar, these requests are a vital tool for transparency.
Absolutely.
It allows anyone, journalists, citizens, even political rivals, to access government documents. But by blocking them, it creates this perception of secrecy, which, of course, raises a lot of red flags.
Absolutely. Transparency is crucial in any government. I mean, blocking FOIA requests can really fuel suspicion and erode public trust.
Yeah.
It's something that should be taken very seriously.
Now, Henyard's attorney has come out calling Lightfoot a failed mayor and dismissing the report altogether.
Oh, wow.
But the financial concerns are only one piece of this puzzle.
Right.
Things took a pretty wild turn at a Thornton Township meeting.
Yeah.
Remember, Henyard also serves as supervisor there. And let's just say it got physical.
Oh, yeah. This meeting was already like a powder keg of tension.
Okay.
And then this activist named Jedidiah Brown directed a derogatory term toward Henyard.
Oh.
And things escalated really quickly.
Wow.
And Fox News caught the whole thing on camera.
No way.
Henyard's boyfriend, Kamal Woods, got into a physical altercation with Brown, and the room just erupted in chaos.
So the footage is intense. You can see people scrambling to get out of the way as this fight breaks out. It's not crystal clear from the video whether Henyard herself was directly involved in the brawl.
Okay.
But she is seen moving towards the altercation.
Hmm.
And to add fuel to the fire, Brown has filed a lawsuit alleging that Henyard actually hit him with a microphone during the scuffle.
Oh, geez. What kind of legal trouble could she be facing here?
Well, that depends on the evidence and how the court interprets the situation. Battery charges could be on the table, and the lawsuit could lead to a pretty hefty financial settlement.
Right. But beyond the legal ramifications, there's the issue of public perception.
Right. This incident raises serious questions about her judgment and temperament, even if she wasn't the one throwing punches.
Yeah.
Optics matter in politics, and this brawl definitely doesn't paint her in a favorable light.
Exactly. It feeds into this narrative of chaos and instability surrounding her administration.
Right.
And this all comes at a particularly crucial time because guess what? Despite everything that's going on, Henyard is running for re-election as Dolton's mayor.
You've got to be kidding me with the financial scandal and this brawl making headlines. You'd think she'd step aside.
Right.
But it seems like she's doubling down and ready for a fight, literally and figuratively.
The Dolton Democratic primary is coming up fast, February 25th.
Wow.
So the clock is ticking. And in a recent interview, Henyard made a pretty audacious statement.
Okay.
She compared herself to both Jesus Christ and Rosa Parks.
Seriously.
Now, you tell me, is that a brilliant move to rally support or a colossal miscalculation?
It's definitely a risky move.
Yep.
I mean, on one hand, she's aligning herself with figures who represent resilience and fighting for what's right, which could resonate with some voters.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, invoking those names in this context could be seen as insensitive or even blasphemous, potentially alienating others.
Right.
It's hard to say how this will play out with the voters of Dolton.
Yeah, it's a gamble for sure, and it speaks to the larger strategy she seems to be employing.
Okay.
She's trying to control the narrative, shifting the focus from the allegations against her to a narrative of persecution and fighting against the odds.
So if we break down her strategy, it seems like she's combining this fighter image with deflecting blame.
Right.
I mean, her attorney already called Lightfoot a failed mayor. And there's a good chance she'll point fingers at previous administrations for Dolton's financial woes.
Yeah. Do you think that will work? Will voters buy it?
But that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The voters are savvy, and they'll likely see through any blatant attempts to dodge responsibility. However, a bit of redirection can be effective if she can successfully shift some of the blame and highlight any positive developments in Dolton during her time as mayor. You know, she might be able to sway some undecided voters.
Yeah, it's a classic political playbook, deflect and conquer.
Right.
But she's facing some pretty serious accusations.
Yeah.
And this brawl, whether she was directly involved or not, certainly doesn't help her image.
Agreed. The optics are bad.
Yeah.
And it adds to this perception of her administration being embroiled in chaos.
And we can't forget about the FBI investigation that's hanging over her head.
Oh, right.
Even though no charges have been filed, that's a huge wild card in this election.
It's like a dark cloud looming over her campaign.
Right.
Voters have to weigh that uncertainty against her record, and it's a tough call. You know, this deep dive has been a roller coaster.
Yes.
Financial scandals, a brawl caught on camera, an FBI investigation, and now this controversial comparison to Jesus and Rosa Parks.
Wow.
It's a lot to process.
It really highlights the complex dynamics at play in local politics. We see power struggles, questions of accountability and transparency, and the influence of public perception. It's a microcosm of what we often see on a national scale.
What's fascinating to me is that despite all of this, she's pushing forward with her campaign. It makes you wonder, does she genuinely believe she can win? Or is this a last-ditch effort to salvage her political career?
It's impossible to know for sure what's going through her mind, but you have to admire her tenacity. She's facing an uphill battle, but she's not backing down.
So as we head into the final weeks before the election, what do you think will be the deciding factors for voters? What should we be paying attention to?
I think it boils down to this: will voters prioritize the allegations against her, or will they focus on her record as mayor? Will they see her as a victim of circumstance or as someone who has abused her power? And how will the FBI investigation play into their decision-making?
It's a lot for voters to consider.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how much weight do you think they'll give to this comparison to Jesus and Rosa Parks? Will it inspire them, or will it backfire?
That's the wild card. It could go either way. Some voters might find it empowering, seeing her as a fearless leader standing up for her community. Others might view it as a desperate and inappropriate attempt to deflect from the real issues at hand. It's a risky strategy, and it could make or break her campaign.
So what do you think, based on everything we've discussed? Do you think Henyard has a shot at winning this election?
It's a nail-biter for sure. The Dolton Democratic primary is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched local elections in recent memory. It's going to be a tight race, and the outcome could have a significant ripple effect.
Absolutely. This is about more than just one mayor or one town. The results of this election could send a message to other elected officials about the importance of transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
It could also empower residents to demand more from their leaders.
Exactly. It could embolden citizens to hold their elected officials to a higher standard, to push for greater transparency, and to demand that their voices be heard.
This is a story that's far from over. We'll be watching closely as the election unfolds. But for now, let's take a step back and consider what this all means for you, the listener. We've been digging deep into this situation in Dolton,
Right.
with all its twists and turns.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get lost in the specifics of this one town and this one mayor. But I think there's a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Something that applies to all of us, regardless of where we live.
You're absolutely right. What's happening in Dolton is a microcosm of issues that play out in communities across the country.
Right.
It's a reminder that local politics, often overlooked, can have a profound impact on our daily lives.
Exactly. We're talking about fundamental principles of good governance, transparency, accountability, responsible spending. These are things that affect the quality of our schools, the safety of our streets, the economic well-being of our communities. And when those principles are compromised, as they seem to be in Dolton, the consequences can be far-reaching.
Think about it this way. If you can't trust your local government to be open and honest about its finances, if there are concerns about favoritism and misuse of funds, it erodes the very foundation of a healthy community. It breeds cynicism and distrust, making it harder to address collective challenges.
And that's where you, the listener, come in. This deep dive isn't just about passively absorbing information. It's about equipping you to engage in your own community. Ask questions. Demand transparency. Hold your elected officials accountable.
Exactly. Don't underestimate the power of your voice and your vote. Pay attention to what's happening in your town or city. Attend council meetings. Read local news. And don't be afraid to speak up. A healthy democracy relies on engaged citizens.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Dolton controversy, I want to leave you with this thought. The future of Dolton is in many ways in the hands of its residents. Will they rally behind Mayor Henyard, or will they demand change? Will this be a turning point for the town, leading to greater transparency and accountability? Or will things continue down a path of uncertainty and distrust?
We've examined the allegations against Mayor Henyard, the financial turmoil, the dramatic brawl, the controversial comparisons, and her unwavering determination to stay in the race. It's a complex story with no easy answers.
And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling. We've provided you with the information, the context, the multiple perspectives. Now it's up to you to form your own opinions, to draw your own conclusions, and most importantly, to engage in your own communities.
Remember, the decisions made at the local level have a direct impact on your life. So stay informed, stay engaged, and never underestimate the power of your voice.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of a local political storm. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep. It's interesting. We talk about all this stuff happening in Dolton. But this actually, it makes me think about my own town. Like, are these things happening here too?
Exactly. That's the point. This isn't just a Dolton problem. These kinds of issues, they're happening everywhere.
It's a reminder that we need to pay attention to what's going on in our own backyards.
Absolutely. We often get caught up in national politics.
For sure.
But what happens at the local level, it can have a much more direct impact on our lives.
So true. So what can we do about it? Besides just being aware?
Well, for starters, we can get involved. Attend city council meetings, voice our concerns, hold our elected officials accountable.
I like it. It's all about taking ownership of our communities, right?
Exactly. We can't just sit back and complain. We need to be active participants in shaping the future of our towns and cities.
So if you're listening to this and you're feeling inspired to make a difference, start by getting informed. Find out who your local representatives are. What issues are being discussed. Attend a meeting or two. You might be surprised by how much influence you can have.
And you know what else?
What's that?
Don't be afraid to reach out to your local journalists.
That's a good idea.
They rely on tips from the community. And they can help shine a light on important issues that might otherwise go unnoticed.
We often talk about the importance of a free press. But it's equally important to have an engaged citizenry.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street.
Exactly. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have?
We've talked about the financial scandal, the brawl, the FBI investigation, the controversial comparisons, and, of course, Henyard's unwavering determination to stay in the race.
She's a fighter, that's for sure.
But ultimately, it's up to the voters of Dolton to decide her fate. Will they give her another chance? Or will they demand new leadership? Only time will tell. And
as we wait to see how this all unfolds, let's remember the lessons we've learned from this deep dive. The importance of transparency and accountability.
Absolutely.
The power of local journalism.
So true.
And most importantly, the responsibility we all have to engage in our communities.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep.